Already going live.
We're already live?
Yeah, we're live right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's up?
We've been live the whole time since you
No,
logged on. Yep.
Oh, okay.
No. So you're doing laundry now? So quick turn and burn.
Yeah, very, very quick turnaround, quicker than probably wanted it to be, but sometimes that's how it goes.
Yeah, I literally just got in. What was an hour ago? Yeah, I called you.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. I got my 2 hours sleep because my flight was at I had to be at my Uber picked me up at 4:15 in the morning, and but once I got to the airport, my airport experience was a lot better than yours. So.
Yeah, that was quite surprising. There were a group of us that were there at 3 a.m, basically getting to the airport, and there were a ton of people there, and nothing was open. Like the airport was, didn't seem prepared for the volume of people that were traveling there. Outside of security, they had a ton of people at TSA.
Yeah. Yeah, I was lucky because they had two lines. They had TSA pre, and then they had a line for military too. And I was like, oh, which one should I choose? So I went TSA pre because it was on my boarding pass, and it was no issue. Of course, both my bags got picked up for inspection. Yeah, but they were really quick with it. And then yeah, got my flight, got upgraded. I mean, as much as you can get upgraded in on Frontier. But I ended up with first row window seat, and there was no one next to me. So literally, I was the first one off the plane, and then got my Airbnb, and then here I am. So, but it was great. It was great spending a whole day in Denver, just kind of relaxing. Oh yeah, T-Bird, it is Happy Canada Day.
That's right. Who was
Yeah.
someone? Oh yeah, Chad was telling me that.
Is that why he's not working today?
And he shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He killed it anyway this week.
Yeah, Chad flat out crushed it. He was the workhorse. So yeah. So yeah, so we're waiting for Julia to hopefully hop on. We don't know. I mean, she's obviously in Abu Dhabi right now. That's where she trains out of, and where she's at right now. So hopefully, she got the link, and I don't know what time it is there, but
should be around 8 in the evening or
yeah,
9 in the evening, something like that.
Like a 10-hour difference. So, but I guess while we wait for her, we could talk about. We didn't really. I mean, obviously, you and Bella were on the broadcast. So we didn't get to talk too much about it because even afterwards, we're kind of just mingling with other people besides ourselves. So, but
it
yeah,
seems like it's always like that when we're not often at the same competitions, and even when we are, it's like we don't actually see each other that much.
Yeah, I mean, when we go out to dinner or something like that, but usually it's a group of us, so it ends up we're talking to the people that are with us. So, but we had a great group. Bella joined us for this trip. Chad came in for it, and then of course Joe, our old coworker from the morning chalk up, he was there. We went out to dinner the night before, so it was really cool just to catch up, talk about some things inside and outside CrossFit. So Melanie Hodge, great job on the broadcast. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks,
Yeah, Brian.
Melanie.
So last night I went and timestamped the event. So if you go to the Reps Ahead 3 channel, or not the channel, but the video, you can choose what match you want to watch by just clicking on the timestamp. So I was able to do that last night. Put in the timestamp so if you wanted to watch, Jake Marconi sell his soul for the first 45 seconds of a match.
Give him a minute 45.
Okay, a minute 45. Minute 45.
The lights went out then.
Yeah, you can click on that. You can click on that little link right there and it'll take you straight to it. So it's broken up in chapters. Also put the pre and post event shows on there too with Brian and Bella. But overall, it's really cool. But I was able to rewatch it. I still haven't rewatched the whole thing, but from what I watched, it was great, and I've heard nothing but good things. I mean, if you are following Dave Castro, he interviewed James Sprague yesterday. Sprague fresh off the plane, and James had a lot of great things to say about it. And so did Dave. Dave was really interested. So yeah, so I mean, maybe some great stuff in the future for Reps Ahead. Me and Brian, hopefully there is great things in the future. So You know.
I think so. I think there's a lot of potential, good amount of momentum. Same experience for me as Jacksonville in terms of having the ability to talk to the athletes after they did it
Hmm.
and the feedback. We're not talking about just like some random athletes. These are CrossFit Games athletes. These are athletes that are training to compete at the highest level in this sport, and they're having a good experience.
Yeah,
And that affirmation from the athletes to me is the most important aspect of this.
yeah, especially not only for us because we know these athletes, but I think also for the growth of reps ahead. I don't think this is my second one as well. I don't think I've heard a single athlete for both, complain or say anything. They're just like, it's great. They're great. They're glad to be there. They're treated with respect. First class amenities. Just great.
Amenities.
Yeah.
And then
Sorry.
the other thing, the other thing is same experience as last time with Alexis and Dallin and those guys is they were able to train as they wanted to throughout the weekend. I
Yeah.
mean, I think Kyra is probably the best example of this because she came in relatively early on Friday. She did her full training day on Friday on
Yep.
whatever that was supposed to be. Saturday morning, she did an aerobic piece. In the evening, she did the reps ahead. And the next day, which was Sunday, she flew home and she was back in the gym doing a lifting session and a cardio session. So she was able to, obviously she had to do some of the travel, but able to integrate the competition and the earning potential and everything that comes along with it in the midst of games training.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I got there early enough. Me and Chad, we were able to join Kyra and Kiefer, her boyfriend, proven coach. He came in when she started her second session, um, and yeah, it was just great. She did it the right way, and obviously she's in the middle. Unlike some of the other athletes, she's in the middle of games training, so she can't miss anything like that. But she integrated that fully, and Saturday morning was fun when we were all kind of integrated. I think everyone except for Malachi was the only one that didn't show up for that training session.
Yeah, all the other athletes, not the community matches, but a lot of those are so local that they
Yeah, yeah,
just, they're driving from home, so they come in the afternoon for their matches, which were also super fun.
yeah.
But the rest of the crew did it. A few people jumped in, um, and yeah, it was fun to train with the guys down in Jacksonville, and fun again to have opportunity to do it
Mhm.
with these guys. And it was, also we're doing this workout. It's kind of a longer aerobic piece, but you get to see some of the athletes
Yeah,
and kind of where their levels of intensity were for the training. They all, they were all able to do this training session relatively together, but get what they needed out of it.
yeah,
Whereas, James wasn't even his training piece. It was, his Kairos, but he jumped in and he's like writing down his times on the board and trying to maintain very consistent splits. And then you got, Paige Powers that mostly looked like she was just using it to kind of warm up for the afternoon,
mhm.
and then everything in between. And that's perfect, is that they can come there and train in the way that they want to, and then still be, fresh and ready to attack in the afternoon for the matches.
Yeah, and they have someone like me who just like, I'm just there. I did 3 rounds of the 6 rounds. Just yeah, I couldn't breathe, and yeah, was just kind of going at my own pace, and but it was fun. It was really cool to just see all of them, interact, kind of hop in on, again on Kyra's piece, and it was really cool. Just really cool overall, and then yeah, right into it. Sarah Cooper, speaking of Castro, his interview of Ruan from South Africa was great. He seems like a cool dude. You guys should get him on. Yeah, I mean, that's something me and Brian, we were trying to get him and Gemma Raider on. We just hadn't, with our schedule right now. But there, I mean, definitely that's something that's still on the table. Um, Brian is he's back on the road for the rest of this month, essentially. Um, so it's going to be
Yeah,
a
but
little bit.
we'll still be able to get some interviews in. I was in the middle of watching that interview with Ruan earlier this morning, and then got sidetracked with some stuff, other things I needed to take care of. So I haven't finished watching it yet. But yeah, when you think about I think the way that Dave's doing it lends itself to being potentially cool for a lot of different athletes because in a 10-minute format, like it's pretty quick moving. And so when it's someone that you don't know anything about, it can leave you wanting more, which I think is a good thing, because then it drives some interest in learning about those athletes. In some of the case of the athletes that we do hear from a lot, they know that it's only going to be this 10-minute window. And so, you may get something pretty valuable out of them rather quickly because they know that it's going to be over before it starts.
Yeah. But speaking of athletes, yes.
Hi, Julia.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, guys. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Sound good to me.
Okay, cool.
And we were talking about some other stuff, but you are in the UAE again right now?
Yes, I'm in Abu Dhabi now.
And what's the time over there right now?
Now it's 8:10 p.m.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're right. Yeah, Brian, you're right. Brian knows his
sorry.
time zone.
That's what I thought, but we both traveled yesterday, and so then we're trying to just always keeping time relative to where you are. It can be a little tricky.
Yeah.
Julia, it's nice. The last time I saw you was in person was in Saudi Arabia. We had a nice time there. You competed very well there, I thought, but it's a different style of competition than a semifinal, for example. And you've been over in the UAE. How long have you been over in the UAE now?
It's going for 3 years now.
Right. And during that time, outside of semifinals, how often do you travel to Brazil?
I actually never traveled to Brazil to go out of semis.
So it's only for semifinals that you go back.
Yeah. It's really expensive. So, like, if I have to go to the semis, so I rather visit my parents and my family, it's easier.
So you can use the competition as an opportunity to also visit with people that you don't see the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And in that case, do you try to go early and visit with him before the semifinals so you can also kind of get used to the time change?
Yeah. So I went 6 days before the competition and I left 6 days after. Something like that. Yeah. So I could spend some time after the competition and do other stuff with them.
And that's really nice. You get some time on the front end to just like get used to being there, and then afterwards, especially when things go well, I'm sure it's nice to have a little bit of period to celebrate with your friends and family.
Yeah, it was amazing. Even though like they were at the competition, my parents were there, my husband's parents were there, so it was really nice. And it was the first time like my husband's parents saw me competing in person, and it was really really cool, really cool.
Oh, wow.
And your husband, he lives in UAE with you?
Yeah.
Then does he always travel with you to competitions?
Now a little bit less because he's working in the government now. He's in the police, so he's a police coach. So it's a little bit harder for him to get like leave and stuff. So, but for the semis, like he was with me. Now we're checking if he will be able to be at the games with me. It's a little bit hard, but we're gonna try our best.
Sure. And did he go with you to the CrossFit Games last time?
Yes. We were working in another gym, so he was working in a affiliate, so it was a little bit easier to travel.
And because you're spending all your time in the UAE and not that much time in Brazil or South America at all, do you have a good idea, like year by year, of what the other athletes from South America that you're going to need to compete against are doing, or is it difficult to kind of keep up with them?
I don't know anything of what's happening in Brazil or South America. I have no idea.
Well, I wasn't sure because where you are in the UAE also has Kalian Souza and Bruno
Yeah.
Marins. So
Yeah.
the three of you who work together, train together sometimes, I'm sure, and all qualified. But maybe like Kalian or Bruno is able to stay up to date and fill you in a little bit. So I'm never sure.
Yeah, to be honest, like I'm not living close to them anymore. So I'm living around 1 hour and a half from Alain.
Oh,
I'm in
wow.
Abu Dhabi. Yeah. So I don't get to see them very often. We talk sometimes, but we don't have that much contact, so we don't train together that much, to be honest.
So it's because for just to put a little bit of context, this is the 4th year that you've competed in the semifinals. There's only been 4 years of semifinals. You've competed there every year. And, 4 years ago, you were 4th place. Then you were 2nd place. You made it to the games. Last year, 7th place. And this year, 2nd place again. And when year by year, I'm just kind of curious, when you make that trip over there, is it, do you kind of try to think to yourself, where do I fit in with the rest of the women there? Do you have any idea of that? Or do you go every year just kind of thinking, hey, I've been training, I've been preparing, and I'm ready for whatever it is?
Yeah, I just try to do my best and think of like do my best, because I really don't know. Like I don't watch the Brazilian competitions or the South American competitions, so I follow some of the girls on Instagram, but I don't see very often what they're doing, what they're posting. So I'm really like disconnected from South America. And it's really like a surprise. Like for me, last year was a surprise. I thought I would be like much worse, to be honest, last year. And this year I was also like, I'm just, to be honest, like during the open, like before the open, I told my husband, he's also my coach. I told him like I want to do this season for fun. Like I don't want to put pressure on myself. I don't want to train that much like I was training, because it started to just hurt. I was kind of overwhelmed of training, and I moved a little bit for the weightlifting because I'm part of the weightlifting team here now. And I was just enjoying training weightlifting in the last year, at the end of last year. So I told him like, I want to travel, I want to spend more time with you. I don't want to spend like the weekends like just thinking about the gym, and I have to train and I have to do this and that and feel guilty when I don't do it. So that's what I told him like before the open. And then I just let like the season goes. Like I travel a week before quarterfinals. We went to Cyprus and we spent like a week and a half there. Then I just arrived it, and 3 days later I had to do the quarters. And I was just training like depending on how I was feeling. And we were doing like day by day things.
And that's this year. But you even
Yeah.
said that last year you finished 7th at semifinals, and you didn't even know if you would do that well.
Yeah, because last year I was still like treating my shoulder and my back. That was an injury that I had before the games, my back, and my shoulder was after the games in November. So, and I was misdiagnosed many times, and I only got to treat like for the right thing when I moved here to Abu Dhabi, and I found my physiotherapist. Like he saw the image and he said exactly what I had, and I was treating like everything wrong the whole time. So we had a plan. Like he had 2 months to treat me before the semis last year. So that was the 2 months that I have for a good training, let's say, for the last year semis. And like in the first weekend of the open last year, there was ring muscle ups at the end of the workout, and I had to do singles because I couldn't hang on the rings actually. So it was really hard last year, like mentally hard. And I enjoyed like these two months that I have of training. Like not it was not pain free, but it was the best 8 weeks that I had in a long time. So I could do most of the movements with quality and not feeling that much level of pain. So I was really enjoying these 8 weeks of training, but it was only 8 weeks that I had to train for the semi. So I thought it would be like much worse.
And it was still pretty good. And this is a post you put up last year after semifinals when you didn't make it to the games. And that's an awesome picture, first of all. And then the message is that you've ended your season at semifinals, but you have a happy and a full heart. And that's pretty cool. A lot of people, they train for this sport, and that semifinals weekend ends up being kind of like life or death, like a make or break in terms of the season for them. They put so much emphasis on it. And when they come up short of the goal of making it to the games, they can still maybe be proud of their effort, but there's definitely some kind of like a hole, like something's missing. I didn't get what I wanted, but it doesn't seem like that's the case for you.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking, but at the same time, I knew I wasn't getting a good outcome since I didn't have a good off-season training. I didn't really had like a good training, to be honest. So I understood by the time where I was, and really like getting at least top 10 was good. Like, and going to the last day, I was not even top 10. I was maybe 12 going to the last day, so I wasn't even in the last heat. And I didn't get to do like the final with the girls like that I know better. So it was kind of like frustrating, but I knew like it's okay. Like it's just a competition. It was fine. And I was already like feeling a bit overwhelmed of training and everything. So when we finished the semis, I just took like a month break maybe, and I let my body heal and just doing whatever I wanted. And then I did this weightlifting competition where I won, and they called me to be part of the weightlifting team. So it was a good time. Like I found, because I'm very passionate about CrossFit and training. And when I first started, I got kind of obsessed. Like in 2022, I was really obsessed and I really wanted to qualify to the games, and I made it to the games. But then I hurt my back before the games, which was like, it just broke me, really broke me. And I think now, like, I found some passion. I got passionate about weightlifting as well, like last year. And but it kind of also like it just passed as we started the season of CrossFit, and I started to like compete CrossFit again and training CrossFit again. So it was good not having qualified last year, because I found other hobbies that I like to do and other things that I like to do. I started to do skateboarding and like just taking myself a little bit out of CrossFit, because I really like, I work in a CrossFit gym. I spend my whole day in the CrossFit gym. I train CrossFit. I watch CrossFit, and I know everything about CrossFit. So it was time for a break, you know?
I think that is the message. That's is that it's nice when an athlete who does invest so much into their health and fitness, and a lot of that is involving CrossFit, but also their profession to some extent is through, not just coaching it, but also training in it and competing. Um, but that you found this balance in life, like you're able to take those trips to Cyprus. I have not been to Cyprus, but I
Amazing.
imagine that's a beautiful place to take a trip.
Yeah.
I'm sure that it's not, it's really probably really nice for your husband, who you mentioned is also your coach, to hear you say, I want to spend time with you. And I'm guessing that when you say that to him, you don't mean, I want to spend time with you talking about my training. It's probably talking about
Yeah.
anything else, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And now that you've been in the UAE for, about 3 years, do you also have some good friends that you've made over there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Especially now that we moved to Abu Dhabi, we have, because it's not like Al Ain is bad, let's say, but there's nothing to do really. It's a very local city, and we don't get that much. It's hard to get a connection with the locals, being like from outside. I just find it a little bit hard. And when we moved here, like there's a lot of Brazilians living here in Abu Dhabi, and especially like the area that we live. So we made a lot of friends. We have two good friends that we are always together. So we do everything together. On the weekends, we're always going to the places. And also people from other nationalities. Like it's different. Like the connections we made here are really different from what we had in Alain.
You mentioned when you do go when you do go back to Brazil, that there's some of the athletes there that you compete against every year that maybe they're the other top women that are usually in that final heat. Um, are there a couple of those athletes that you are actually friends with, that you talk to a little bit, or is it just you're familiar with them from competition?
There's not someone that I really talk that I'm really close, but like sometimes like we just change some messages on Instagram, like Bruna, Amanda. Um, yeah, that's what I can think of. Sometimes Victoria.
Yeah, there is it seems like as far as the South American women go, there's a group of women that's relatively consistent, but they, even year to year, they don't always all compete, or sometimes there's a couple of new women that come up there. But and so I'm sure it is nice to go back every year and see some familiar faces, give some hugs, and then have a little fun on the competition floor. But it sounds like, for the most part, apart from maybe your family, that your social circle is kind of in the UAE now.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard because I I didn't get to compete that much in Brazil. Like I made maybe 2 or 3 competitions, and they were not that big. Like the biggest one was the BCC, but I wasn't like a high level athlete, so, and I didn't know like much people, so, and I'm a shy person. And I'm like, some people think I'm like angry all the time during the competition, or that I don't want to talk to anyone, but I'm just like shy to get to talk to someone. But if someone comes to talk to me, I'm like super friendly. And this is a bit hard. I don't know, sometimes I feel some bad vibes in the warm-up area in Brazil. Like it looks like everyone is angry and no one wants to talk to you.
Yeah,
It's weird sometimes.
sure. I mean, for a lot of the athletes, that this thing that I described earlier, it's a really important weekend for them, and they're putting a lot of pressure on themselves, and maybe they don't have they haven't found that kind of peace outside of competition that you found, and it's not an easy thing to find. But I have seen that the athletes that have that, they generally compete more free, and they compete without, it's not that they don't want to do well. Even that picture we saw from last year where you're saying I have a happy and full heart, you're finishing 7th there, but that's intensity, that's passion, like that in that picture that I see. But you're not living and dying by the result. And that's what I think is kind of, or I'm hearing from you, is a really important thing for you.
Yeah.
Brian, I think we kind of saw that in person in Dubai this past year, especially with her circle of friends, especially in that sprint elimination event, where that's probably the loudest the crowd was at the tennis stadium there in Dubai, was during that sprint event, and you recognize that. I mean, I don't think I saw you smile all weekend until that event, and you were just having fun and free.
Yeah. I think it was one of the competitions that I was sick in the competition, so I wasn't feeling that good. And after the event, I was like, shit, that was bad. I wasn't feeling good. It wasn't a good event. But then, like in these special events, like it made me feel like in the beginning when I started to compete CrossFit, that I was like super happy all the time and everything was good and I was having a good time. And I think it's when things started to click. Like it doesn't have to be that bad competing. I don't need to have like bad feelings all the time. And I think it helped me a lot to this year semifinals, this competition in Dubai, because it just clicked, like, okay, it doesn't need to be that bad. Competing can be fun again. I don't need to put that much pressure.
I wanted to
definitely showed in Dubai.
I wanted to back up a little bit, because I never really asked you about how you ended up in the UAE to begin with. Because you mentioned you were doing those competitions, a couple competitions in Brazil. So 3 years ago or so, what happened that allowed you to come over to the UAE?
We were in the middle of the pandemic and we had a home gym and we used to give classes in our home gym. But then there was 2 athletes working in Alain at that time, that one of them was was also sponsored by Progenics, like a long time ago in Brazil. And Neto was also a Progenics athlete. And my husband, Neto.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, good.
Yeah. And he knew this guy who was also sponsored and was living here in Alain in the gym. And then they posted that they needed a woman coach to come here like as soon as possible. And I just sent my CV with no expectations. Like I always wanted to live abroad, but I never knew like where I want to go, what I want to do, like if I want to go to work or to study. And I just sent my CV, no expectations. And the owner of the gym, he got in contact with me maybe 2 months later. This was right after it was the online semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
So he saw like how I did in the semis, and he messaged me like, "I really like, do you really want to come here? Like, are you like, what are your plans? What do you think? This is your offer. Like, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I want. Like, why not? Let's try." And then he said, okay, when can you come? I said, as soon as possible. I have to do the last chance qualifier. I can do it there if you want. And then he said, okay. Then he bought me the flight tickets. And then like maybe 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, I was arriving in Dubai.
And were you already married at that time?
Yes, I was already married.
And you and Nato and you were both living in Brazil. So was there a period of time where you were in the UAE and he was not?
Yes. So I think there was like maybe 40 days after he came here, because the owner of the house that we had rented and we had the home gym, she asked the house back. So it's not exactly that she asked back, but she increased the rent like too much, and we couldn't afford it. And I was not in Brazil anymore, and we used to live with two other friends, and they said that also like they couldn't afford to live there anymore. So Neto fixed the floor because it was all messed up with my family. Like everyone went there to fix the floor, and they gave the house back. He built our home gym in my parents' house again, but it was far from the place that we were before, and people were not willing to come to train there. And then he said, okay, there's nothing for me to do here in Brazil. Let's buy the ticket and I figure out what I do when I arrive here. And I said, okay, let's do this.
And so he came there, kind of followed you there to, to be with you. And he didn't have any real plan for work or anything like that. And now over 3 years, you said now he's a coach for the police force there.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a very good guy. Like, it's not because he's my husband, but he's a very good guy. And he's an amazing coach. And everyone says this to him. Like, since we moved to Alain, like everyone said, like, he has a great chance to be in big places here and do amazing things here. So we just embrace it. And we knew like at some point we had to leave Alain because bigger things were coming, and everything happened for good.
Well, it's pretty cool that, to see, and I think it's a good, also a good message for people to hear that you can, you can go somewhere with no plans and not knowing any people, and you can create a life there. You can create opportunities there if you're, hardworking and good people like you guys are. So that's really cool. So this season, obviously you did Dubai, then you also did the sand clash competition over there. And one of the athletes who you competed against there is Evie Hollis. I think you know Evie quite well.
Yeah.
You guys have competed and trained together and all this for a few years now. And this year, she actually applied to compete in Asia, which is, where she lives. She's been living there for 4 or 5 years now. She got a chance to do that. Do you ever envision yourself doing something similar when the time, if the rules stay similar and you keep living over there, so that you don't have to travel back to Brazil to compete? Or do you like having that reason to go back every year?
I like to have the reason to go back every year, and I also like the vibes of competing in Brazil. Like, it's so different from any other competition. It's unreal.
So you're likely to keep doing it as long as you can. And I've heard the same thing. I mean, I obviously I know Facundo well, and he's got a huge passion for South America CrossFit in general. And he always tells me, he's like, Brian, I'm telling you, you have to come to Copa Sur.
You have to.
Well, I'm thinking because this year, for the first time in semifinals, I didn't get hired for any of the semifinals. And, if I'm free agent, so to speak, yeah, maybe next year we'll Patrick and I will hit up some different ones instead of the ones that we always go to.
Yeah. South America, Oceania are on our list. Those two are definitely on our list. So.
Yeah, I've never been to Oceania, but everyone says it's also awesome. But I have to say Brazil's the best.
Well, what Patrick and I want is to have the experience of going to enough of them that we can actually compare, because almost everybody only goes to the same one every year. The athletes, the coaches, the fans. There's a few coaches that will, go to a couple different ones, but even so, you can't go to all 7 in any one year because they're happening in 3 weekends. So maybe next year that would be. I've been trying to find some ways to get down to South America in general for CrossFit competitions. But you know what? Maybe that's it. I just have to suck it up and do it myself.
We did a little bit of that week one where Brian went to Europe and I went to Korea, and it was kind of cool just seeing a different perspective. And then
Yeah.
obviously seeing Evie, competing in that region, and then also some of the other Asian athletes in that region, and some of those athletes I'm familiar with from being in Dubai, seeing them compete in Dubai, because a lot of those athletes that compete in Asia are in that area. So, but it's good to hear you say that, I'm Brazilian. I'm going to keep on competing at Brazil, and just because of the crowd, and it's home.
It's home. Yeah, exactly. And it's home people. Like we're really I'm not sure if I can say this, but Brazilians are built different.
Well, no,
Absolutely, yeah, you can say
I can say
it.
that.
You're Brazilian, of course you could say it.
I'm not going to argue with you. No, you're not. No, I think I would probably agree. I think Brazilians are. I mean, I think whether you're Brazilian, Argentinian, whatever, I think anyone in South America region, they're all built a way differently. I
Yeah.
think that's what makes everyone in that part of the world so unique.
Yeah.
Julia, am I right? You're still only 24 years old.
Yes, I'm only 24.
24 years old. A lot of the things that we've been talking about, it seems a lot more mature than a 24-year-old. I mean, and even to the fact that, I mean, how many years have you been married now?
4 years. 4 years.
Is it pretty common to get married young in Brazil?
No. To be
So
honest, no.
you guys were
She just
a
did.
little bit of.
Yeah, like we actually got married because we wanted to buy a house. So that's the story. We wanted to buy a house, and if we were married, we would get more help from the government. So we just said like, okay, do you want to get married? And then we were like, yeah, why not? We did. It was funny because on the day I didn't even told my parents. We were training like so we went to a swimming session, and then after the swimming session, we were with our two good friends that lived with us. And then we said, hey, we need to get married. Do you want to come with us? And then they said, yeah, why not? So we all went to the place. We did all the papers. And then I just messaged my mom, like, hey, mom, I got married. And then she's like,
And what did she say?
Yeah.
Was she happy about that? Was she like,
Yeah. We've been already living together, like me and Neto, not for a long time, but I would say like 4 months maybe. And yeah, we already knew that was it. Like there was no other way around,
and you said that day you were doing a swimming session. So you were 20 years old. About, were you already training to try to be competitive in CrossFit at that time?
Not exactly. Like it was more because Neto is horrible at swimming, and I was trying to teach him how to be a little bit better. And because I was a swimmer before, so I thought I could help, but it's really hard to help him because he just doesn't float. So I, yeah,
I've
it
heard that
was
story with regards to CrossFitters more times than I can count.
yeah, he's like a kettlebell. It just goes down.
Kettlebell.
But yeah,
Ooh,
we started
what was your, when you were swimming, by the way, what was your event?
100
Like the
breaststroke, yeah. But I used to swim everything. So like backstroke, individual medley, 400, freestyle, like anything the team needed, they just put me.
What was the highest level of swimming that you did?
I was in the national team, and we went to a competition like in Mexico, like a national competition in Mexico. But it was, and I did like the Olympic trials in 2016 for Rio. And that
2016,
was,
you were only 16 years old.
yeah, I was
Wow.
very young. I started to swim very young. So,
Do you know that swimming was my best sport growing up as well. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and the 200 IM was my best event.
That's cool. Yeah, I used to love to swim the 200 IM.
Did you watch any of the Olympic trials for swimming this year?
Some things, I just saw some highlights, but I didn't get to see like the full picture. But the level of the things now are really crazy. Like it's unreal.
forgive me if I'm wrong about this. Are you working with Tier this year?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore, because they obviously have some involvement with the U.S. Olympic swimming team, and some of the they work with Katie Ledecky and what she's doing in terms of swimming. It's crazy. So I don't know if there was some opportunity to potentially meet her or something like that, but
that's
racing.
funny because I met her in Waterpalooza.
You did?
Oh.
Yes. And it was really like random because I was in the corral, and then she was just walking around like nobody knew her, and I was like, oh my god, it's like Katie Lennox, it's here. Like, what is this?
I didn't know she was at Wadapalooza. Did you know that, PC?
I didn't, but it doesn't surprise me.
It wasn't this year. Yeah. It was last year, I think. Last year, yeah.
Wow. Well, look at that. You already met her. Did you get a picture or anything?
No. I was so like stressed about competition. I was just like, oh my god, what should I do? And then they already called us to go to the arena, so I was like, okay, maybe next time.
Wow, well, that's pretty cool. Maybe there'll be a swimming event at the games this year.
I hope so.
And maybe it'll be.
I really hope so.
Because the one year that you went, the swimming event was really a skiing event.
Yeah, I did well, but because like the swimming was still a big part of it, but still, it wasn't really a swimming event. But I like that it was in the pool because I don't like to swim open water.
Yeah, it was kind of like as long as you were good enough at swimming, then it was about the ski. But if you weren't good enough, then it was absolutely still about the swim.
Yeah.
Did you have something, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, kind of talking. I mean, that event in 2022 at the pool, you had swimmers like Amanda Barnhart, and there's some other CrossFit athletes that are known as really good swimmers. Do you have a chance to talk to them and ask them, or compare your time to them, or even ask them what their strategy was?
No, I didn't talk to anyone because I'm too shy for this. And I always think like people are too like in the zone, so I don't want to do harm to them. I don't want to be intrusive.
Sure.
So let's talk about this year a little bit. You go down to Brazil. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but for people who don't know a lot about South American CrossFit, and there's not that many South American women that compete in CrossFit outside of South America. If they don't make it to the games, probably most people, especially in North America, they're not even going to know who these athletes are, or maybe they'll just recognize their name from a leaderboard, but they couldn't tell you anything about them. And in the last couple of years, the one kind of consistent out of South America has been Victoria Campos. She's kind of the one that's been able to stay. Obviously, you've now qualified twice, but we had some different athletes last year. We've had athletes like Melinda Rodriguez, Sasha Nieves, who have come up, but then they've gone on the team or they've not done as well the following season. And so coming into this year's semifinal, most of us were kind of saying it's Victoria Campos, and then it's kind of wide open on the women's side. Do you think that that's a fair assessment for people who maybe don't know, at least to say that something like that?
Yeah, a little bit, to be honest. Like, I don't know many of the girls in Brazil, but I know that the way they train Brazil, it's different because the biggest competition we have in Brazil is the TCB. And the style of events are different from the semis and from like quarterfinals and the season in general. And I think that's why we have so many people coming and going every time, just because the way they train, it's different. It's not really focused on the season. So yeah, I think it's a little bit fair to say this, but at the same time, we just had 4 years of semis. So
do you think that for some athletes, serious CrossFit athletes in Brazil, that doing well at the TCB is almost just as important as doing well at semifinals or making it to the games?
If we think about sponsorships, yes, because people really see value in the TCB in Brazil. Like if you do great in the TCB, like the brands will notice you. But if you do great at Copa, it's just like, okay, you did great at Copa, so you're going to the games, but you don't live in Brazil, so I don't want you. I don't think
Right,
with you.
and that this is something that I've learned with talking to people who are part of the Brazilian CrossFit, especially competitive community, is that a lot of the brands in Brazil, it's pretty local. It's like specific to Brazil. Like there's
Yes.
not international companies that are sponsoring Brazilian athletes. It's Brazilian companies that are sponsoring Brazilian athletes. So doing well at the biggest Brazilian competition is what's more important to them.
Yeah, yeah, and especially because it's hard for the Brazilian brands to export. So they don't see, like, they don't want to like go to the US, or they don't want to go to Europe. Like, it's, and Brazil, it's huge. And the Brazilian, like the CrossFit community in Brazil, it's huge. So if they focus only in that, for them it's fine, it's good. They don't want to expand.
And another barrier is just the language. You know, most of the
Exactly.
Brazilians speak Portuguese, and Portuguese is only really spoken in a couple countries around the world. Why, by the way, why is your English so good?
I don't know. I don't even know how did I learn English,
What?
but yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, like I always consumed a lot of like stuff like YouTube, books, everything in English, and I just learned like with life. And when I moved here, I was very shy to talk with people because I thought my English wasn't this good. And but it just got better. And like as I said, like when we lived in Alain, the English is very different. So it's a little bit mixed with Arabic, and they have the kind of own dialect with English.
Yeah.
And but moving here to Abu Dhabi, like we get people from England, we have people from the UK, we have people from Australia. So kind of I expanded a little bit more my English. So I have, and like everyone speaks English here, so I had to do something and just work with it.
No, your English is amazing. I mean, it's like, I mean, I can't even. You definitely have an accent, but I can't place the accent. You know, it's just like, you know, it's like it's very, yeah, it's very exotic, but it's great. I was wondering the same thing. Good question, Brian.
Thank you guys. I was terrified to do this podcast, to be honest. I was like, oh my God, that's the first time I'm doing a podcast in English.
That speaking of, has Dave Castro reached out to you yet to be on his little 10-minute interviews?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Are you looking forward to that?
Oh yeah, a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
I'm
great.
excited.
It's been cool to see. He had the guy from Africa on just I think yesterday. So and since Sahir Kaya went on last couple days or something, so I think he'll get it to everyone, but he's chipping away, and I think it's very cool that he's doing that.
Yeah, I just watched some of the interviews this noon, and it was really nice. Like I really like it. I really like it from the guy from Africa. It's Ruan, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Really, really nice.
And
Do
you're
you have-
better at saying his name than Dave is.
Do you have
Wait.
do you have a question prepared for him?
No, I was thinking about this today. Like, what should I ask him? I might have it, but I'm still thinking.
All right, don't ruin it. We'll watch to get it, but yeah, I was wondering that because I didn't know, like, he reached out to Sahar, and I didn't because I managed Sahar, so he didn't go through me. He just reached out to her directly, and if I would have known that, I would have been like, no, you need to ask him a question, and like, you know, any type of question, but she's like, oh dang it, I should have asked him a question, and I'm like, this is, you don't give me the opportunities to talk to Dave one-on-one like that, even like myself and Brian. See Dave at a lot of events, and even when we do get to see him and talk to him, it's usually like really brief, or you're with a group of people, and then he's off because he's always busy. So that's why I think it's really cool, because you've been around. I mean, with 2022, Dave wasn't there, correct? He wasn't there, but even then, like he even says, like even some of the athletes he does know, he hardly ever talks to at the games. But yeah, to have like 10 minutes with Dave, just you and him, that's saying a lot, and it says a lot about him trying to grow with the sport as well, trying to get to know the athletes. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
So this season, kind of surprising. I think I would be curious to know if you were surprised or not. But they opened, they got another qualifying spot in Brazil or in South America to the CrossFit Games. Were you surprised when that happened?
Yes. Yeah.
You
Because
know,
I don't follow that much like the worldwide ranking, and I really didn't know we had that many girls in like the top 100. So it was kind of a surprise.
well, they changed the way that they did the rankings. Basically, they narrowed it down to a smaller group of athletes that they were looking at, and it allowed for some of these, the smaller regions, meaning the regions that have had less qualifying spots in the past, to get these extra spots. For you personally, having that extra spot there, did anything change for you in terms of your expectations this year?
Not really. Like I was really with no expectations going to the semis. So for me, it was like, okay, they gave another spot. That's good. But let's see, everything can happen.
And then, the competition comes. I didn't watch too much of the competition. I went back and watched some of the final heats of the events, just to kind of see how the athletes that ended up making the games were looking and moving for my own knowledge. But you seemed to get off to a good start, and stay pretty steady. And then you won both of the workouts on the last day. Am I looking at the right? Yeah, that's right. So it seems like it was a pretty kind of stress-free weekend for you.
Yeah, it was. I was just so happy to be there. And I wanted to just embrace the moment and being around the people that I like and the people that I love, my family. Like they were all there watching me. And also like going, I like the workouts this year. Like it was much different from last year because it was last year was really heavy for me and the skills I didn't really nailed it, like the skills from last year, like the pirouettes and the legs rope climbs. So going to this year, like when they released the workouts, I was like, okay, that's good. Like there's not a workout I said like that's gonna be hard or I mean like the workout two, the front squat, double under, and toes to bar one was I knew it's going to be a little bit hard for me. But other than that, I was like, okay, that's good. All the workouts are good for me. So
I mean, that was your worst workout. It was a 9th place finish. So you kind of knew before the competition started that would be the most challenging one for you. If I had told you before the competition that you were going to win 2 workouts, would you have been like, I don't know about that? Or would you have been like, no, I could possibly win some of these?
I would say I could possibly win some of this. Yeah.
And did you know that those last 2 events, the snatch and then the muscle ups and the lunge, were possibilities to win?
Yes. Yes. I was
Was
also
the
thinking, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was also thinking about the row and handstand walk event, but it turns out I'm not good as the other girls on my hands. I thought I was better.
So you kind of knew that the last day was going to be a good day for you.
Yes, yes.
Which is that's always a good feeling to have. Like, yeah, we'll see how the beginning goes, but I think that I have a good final day. 3 workouts and they all look good for me on paper is probably a nice thing to feel.
Yeah.
And do you remember anything specific about the emotions or the feeling of winning either of those events on the last day?
Yeah, it was like I was just happy. It was happiness. Like I was shouting. I don't know why I was shouting like every time I finished the workout, but it was just like I was letting my body do whatever it wanted to do. Because that's one thing that I learned with weightlifting and with my weightlifting coach. He's an amazing coach here, and he went to the Olympics. He had Olympic medalists. So, like he said, every time I left the platform after the competition, I was like a robot. I was like quiet and like I was happy, but I was like it was everything inside me. And he said, "You need to let it go. You need to like free these things, you know." And that's what I did. I just like let my body do whatever it wanted like at the time, and I was shouting and I was like, yeah, it was good.
Do you feel like as an athlete when you're competing that you have good awareness for the environment? Like, can you hear the crowd, or
Yes.
are you kind of you're engaged in that?
Yeah, sometimes like depending on the event, I'm a little bit more on myself. Like I try to not look to the sides, or like in the snatch event, I wasn't look to the sides. I didn't know what was happening in the other lanes at all. But for some events, yeah, like if it's a longer event that I need to make a little bit more of a strategy, then I need to be more aware of like what people are saying to me. Like sometimes Neto is shouting something to me, or like the crowd is saying something. So I just be a little bit more aware, like in the first event, the running and clean and jerks.
Is that like important too when you take the field of play, that you know where he is?
Yes, yes. Sometimes I kind of miss him because like he keeps moving during the competition. Like one event he's in one place, then he goes to another place. But I like to know where he's.
Yeah, that's nice. It's nice to have that point of contact, just if in case you need it.
Yes, yes.
And so you know, obviously you have this great end to the competition. There was, I mean, you qualified 100 points ahead of the person who misses it. Like it wasn't even really close in terms of qualifying for the games, and you almost won. I mean, you were within 10 points of Victoria. So I'm guessing, you know, you're feeling pretty good about yourself at the end of the competition. Obviously, Victoria makes it again, and then Andrea Pinheiro is over 40 years old, and she's qualifying to the games in the individual division. That seems kind of amazing to me that someone, you know, regardless of anything else, just if you told me a 41-year-old is taking one of the 3 spots from Brazil, but you've competed against her before, you know, she's been close before. Was that surprising that she was kind of the other person that ends up making it, or did you think that no, she's got a chance?
No, she's good. She's good. Like we knew she's going to be some of the contenders. So yeah, and she's been like she's pretty consistent. Like all the competitions that she does, like she's pretty consistent, and she does great in like the style of workouts from semis. So we knew she would be one of the contenders.
There was someone had put a comment up here. CJ, excited to hear from Julia. One of the best parts of Copa was the interview she did standing next to Pinheiro. Very David and Goliath, because she's a very big woman, a
Yeah,
lot, and she's a lot bigger than many of the other top women in Brazil. I mean, even some of these that are not making it, like Amanda, who you mentioned, or Luisa Marquez. Like, you guys are more on the, I don't know
lower
about the
side.
centimeters, but 160 centimeters or less, some of them, and she's 100 over 170 centimeters tall. But I just think it's cool that this sport is still allowing for like athletes of all these different body types to rise to the top.
Yeah, yeah, that's really nice. I mean, there is pros and cons on being like small and tall as well. But at the end, like the semis itself, it was very good. Like the programming was very good, I think. Like there was not like last year, it was for sure it was for big people, like for taller people or for bigger guys. So this year I think it was pretty good, the programming.
Yeah, it seemed like you know you needed to be fit. You had to have the capacity and the
Exactly.
intensity, and a lot of different body types are able to express that. And that's not just in Brazil, but across the world. Like that's what we were able to see this year, which is I think is appropriate for the qualifying stage to the games.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's been what week were you guys? You guys were the second week. It's been like over a month since the semifinals has happened. And how are you feeling? You know, you've been obviously you stayed in Brazil for a week, then you traveled back to the UAE. I'm sure you're working again, coaching now and training. But how do you feel overall as you're like getting ready for the second attempt at competing at the CrossFit Games?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Like training, it's been hard. Like it's not been easy. It's really hard. And I'm pretty tired almost every day because we're trying to increase the volume and do different stuff. And it just takes a lot of energy. And I'm also giving a little bit more classes now than I was giving before going to semis because they're changing some things in the management of the gym, whatever. But it's been great. Like I wish I had more people to train with me. Now at least I have like two. Like I have Milana, good friend of me, and David coming to the gym. So some days I'm like, hey, I have this nasty workout. Do you want to do it with me? And they're like, okay, we're doing, but just because you're going to the games.
That's Milana Jacic, right?
Yes,
From
yes,
Serbia.
Yeah.
Yes, I got to meet her in Saudi Arabia, and she's gonna. I think she's competing in Serbia at the Belgrade Games in September.
Yeah, she's not sure yet if she's
Not
going.
sure. Well,
Yeah.
I think they announced her, so what? Maybe she
Yeah,
will,
yeah,
maybe she won't.
yeah.
But I hope she does. It was fun to meet her. She's a very good person, and I don't know. Do I know David? Who's David?
I don't think you know him. He's from Canada, but he's been living here in the UAE for the past maybe 4 years, 5 years. I'm not sure, but he's very good friend of Luka Dukic.
Okay.
Yeah. So probably you saw him in Luka's stories.
Yeah. And but that's nice that you have a couple athletes that are pretty good that can at least come and join in every once in a while.
Yeah.
Every athlete is different in this regard. Some athletes like training with a big group. Some athletes prefer to train alone. I think that even if that it is nice to have somebody around every once in a while.
Yes. Yeah, and especially like on the days that you're very tired and you're not feeling like training at all. Like if you have someone to do with you, make things easier. I always like it to train with people, but now like sometimes when I invite someone to train with me, they say like you're crazy and I'm not training with you. Like you're going too fast. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing alone.
Well, I train sometimes here with Taylor Self. He was close to making it to the games this year, and a lot of times when I train with him, I'll modify the workout so that I can actually challenge him, and he
Yeah.
knows that I'm doing half the reps or 2/3 of the weight or whatever it is, but it still is a mindset that he doesn't want to lose to me. And so if we're
Yeah.
getting into round 5 of a workout and I'm 2 reps ahead of him, he doesn't make an excuse and say, oh, he's doing less weight, so who cares? No, he goes, he's doing less weight and I want to beat his ass anyway.
Yes. I understand this.
Well, I mean, look, you can be happy in your life as obviously you are, and you can have this balance and whatever, but whether it's swimming when you were younger, weightlifting, CrossFit, you're still a competitor. And when it's
Yes.
time to go, you just go into it that mentality of wanting to win. That's what you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. And especially in competitions. Like I was training with Evie some days for the semis. We were testing some workouts together, and she would beat she would give me such a hard time every time. Like she's just so good. She's so fit, and especially in training, like every time we test the workout, like she would beat everything from me. So like 2 or 3 minutes different, something like that, in some workouts. But then like when it comes to competition time, I don't know what happens, but I get into savage mode. Like my body just let me go. Like much different from in training. So like we tested together the legless event, and I think I finished in like 14 something, almost 15 minutes. And in the competition I did like 12 something, 12:50.
Right.
And for the running and clean and jerk event, I finished 27 something in training. And then I finished 22, 23, I don't remember, in the competition. So yeah.
We call that a gamer. Someone who
Yeah.
they're good in practice, they're good in training, but when it's game day, you want that person on your team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, if we were to look backwards a little bit, the last time you went to the CrossFit Games, it was relative to the games, feel like it wasn't great. You were one of the bottom athletes at the end of the weekend. The swimming workout was the only workout you were in the top half of the field for. Do you have in your mind motivation to kind of make a different impression at the games this year, or are you still of the mentality of I'm just going to keep doing my thing, I'm going to show up, I'm going to compete as hard as I always do hard and see what happens?
No, this year will be different because 2022 I was injured, so I didn't get to train for the games at all. Like for 30 plus days, I couldn't bend, I couldn't take things from the floor, I couldn't run, I couldn't sit on a bike or on a rower, I couldn't do anything. So I was just there, literally like just existing at the games. So this year will be
That's
different.
tough. That's tough
Yeah.
because obviously you want to go there and represent yourself and your country and your region well, and it's great to be there. But I imagine that was hard to be there and know that like I'm doing my best, but this isn't my best.
it was frustrating. It was really frustrating because 2022 going to the semifinals, I was feeling the fittest ever. Like I was just feeling so good, and then out of a sudden, I cannot get out from the bed without pain. So it was really heartbreaking. But for this year, it's different. Like I'm healthy, I'm mentally healthy. Like my body feels good. I don't have any injuries. So it will be really different. I will be there for a good fight.
Earlier, some of the regular people who watch our show, they were making some comments here. Sarah had said, am I imagining things, or is she yet another athlete saying that they're training less this season? And T-Bird says, I think so. It seems that this has been a pretty common thing to hear from the athletes as the sport keeps evolving. People are figuring out what works for them is not necessarily what works for others. Do you feel like that's fair to say with regards to you?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Like I always like it to train a lot. Like we would go for sessions on Saturday, like from 2 p.m. until 8 p.m., like nonstop.
Wow.
But at some point, like her body just cannot hold anymore. And then I started to feel. So I think now I'm just balancing more of this, like volume of training and more resting times. And it's been great for me, like going out on the weekend and just go for the beach and then go for a skate session or go for a wake surf session, like just do different stuff. It's been great.
I think it's well known that especially if you're training for competition in CrossFit, what you do outside of the gym is just as important as what you do in the gym. Do you feel like also in the last couple of years that you've had a better sense of what you need in terms of sleep and food and body work and that type of thing?
Yeah, yeah. It makes a huge difference. And I'm feeling a lot now, especially that I'm training for the games. So we're trying to put a little bit of more volume of training, but at the same time, like I'm not having good sleep. My nutrition has been great, but sleep it's been very hard, especially like I'm working more now and I'm having to work more in the morning, and then I don't get enough sleep because also Neto comes home late, like he comes home around 11 p.m. And yeah, and I'm used to sleep late, and then all of a sudden I have to give classes like 7 in the morning, so I have to wake up very early. So I'm still trying to sleep earlier and get my sleep better, but it's been I'm having a hard time. Like I'm having to take more rest days than I wanted.
But at the end of the day, you want to show up to the CrossFit Games feeling good in a month
Yes.
from now. And it's nice to be able to have kind of the long term or the big picture in mind, and not feel, like you said, you used to feel like if I skipped the weekend, that I was falling behind. But now I think you have this mentality or this awareness that I need to trust my body and what it's telling me. And if I miss a session and get a nap instead, that might be what I need. And that might actually be the thing that makes me the best version of Julia Kato at the games this year.
Yeah, I think that's what it was missing from me last year as well, like taking some break and thinking more about my body. I started to think like I want to do this for a long time. Like I love CrossFit and I want to do this like until I'm old. So if I break my body now, like why should I do a workout if my knee's hurting? Like why should I push against this pain? Like it's not going anywhere with this. Like I'm just hurting myself and like taking time of my life that I could be training. So I'm just more aware of this.
It's every person who trains at a CrossFit gym can probably learn from that. I mean, there's even days where I go into the gym and I'm like, ooh, I don't know if it's the best idea for me to do that weight on this movement today or whatever. But then I see everyone else doing it, and sometimes I do it, and then I pay for it.
Yeah.
Well, it's getting a little bit late there now, and maybe you have some morning classes tomorrow. Is there a I wanted to ask you, when you came back from Brazil, was there a celebration? Were people there to celebrate the qualification this year?
Yes, yes. We have some nice dinners, like a week of dinners.
That's really cool because you have great support in Brazil, and it seems like you have a big supportive community there in the UAE as well. I mean, for a lot of people there, you're their coach, and
Yes.
and you're also not just going to the games as a Brazilian athlete, but as a coach of a group of people in a community there on the other side of the world. So you're kind of representing two different communities.
Yeah, and it's really cool because like in this gym that I am now, they never had a coach that it was also an athlete. So, and there's a lot of people that they started CrossFit like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, and they watched the games like for a long time, and now they have like a games athlete as a coach. So they always come to me like after the semis, a lot of them came to me like, oh, you made my family's weekend. Like everyone watched it and it was really cool. Like everyone loved it. Even the ones like that never did CrossFit before, like they love it.
And I probably should have asked this a while ago, but the gym that you're coaching at now, what is the name of it?
It's CrossFit Abu Dhabi, but we use Arena Fitness.
Gotcha. Yeah, because last year.
Julie, do you have,
No, go ahead.
do you have your L1?
Yes, I have a level 1, and I'm planning to do the level 2 this year.
Oh yeah, the level 2 is you're gonna, especially as a trainer, someone at level 2 is gonna be fun for you.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that you originally came over to teach women's classes. Are you still teaching the women's classes, or are you just general classes now?
More general classes, but it's more because we just have one class a day that is for women's only. Yeah, the like people here in Abu Dhabi, it's a little bit different from what we had in Al Ain. So they're a little bit more open. The locals are a little bit more open. So we don't have much reason to do a ladies only class sometimes. Yeah. So we just have one per day, and I do mostly the mixed classes.
Okay. But when you taught the women's classes, because obviously being in America, we don't have all the classes are integrated. But I know like spending time in the Middle East, even when we went to Dubai last year, like Alioth had a women's class, so no men can go in. It was like shut down for an hour. Can you talk about like, just like, do you have a lot of women that come to those women's classes? Why is it important to have like a women's class in that area, in that region?
So it's hard here because the women, they're not like the families don't want the women to do fitness or to get fit or to think about it, because the woman here, it's like she needs to take care of the family. And sometimes, like very often, I got some clients in the gym that said, coach, I need to stop training because my husband doesn't want me to train because I'm coming home tired and I don't want to do the things at home, and then he's mad at me, so I have to stop coming. Or my family doesn't want me to show up into a gym, so it's very hard, like, because it's not sometimes something about her, but because of the family that don't want her to do it.
Or the culture.
Sorry?
Sometimes the culture.
Yeah, it's really because of the culture. It's really because of the culture. But I mean, here in Abu Dhabi, it's a little bit different. Like the families are a little bit more open. So it's not that they don't have the freedom, but they feel guilty if they don't follow what their family are saying.
Yeah.
Or they will lose the support of the family or from the husband. So it's really important, like for them, especially like because sometimes some families, they're still married between each other. So they have a lot of problems and they need to train. Like it's not something from their culture, but they need to train. So we try to make things better for them, like especially in the ladies class, like we try to understand their side, and we try to bring them closer to the gym and really give them a support, because sometimes what they need is a support. So yeah, it's sad sometimes, like when we hear like, oh, I cannot come anymore because of my husband or because of my family, but it's part of their culture. Like there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, but at least you guys offer a space for them to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Yeah.
How early will you come to the States this year?
So I'm traveling on 2nd of August, and I'll arrive on 2nd of August.
All right. Well, that's the Saturday, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure which day it is.
Well, I'll be coming there Monday. I think I'm coming in on Monday, and it'll be great to see you, give you a hug. And I think, as CJ says here, would love to see Julia make more of a statement at the games this year. Big moves. and I'm excited for that too. It was really fun watching you compete in the off season last year, especially in Saudi Arabia, where you were feeling good, competed really well, and it's great to hear that you're in a good place right now. The semifinal went great. It sounds like, yeah, you're busy, but busy can be a good thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to have a full day, then you get good quality sleep when you can sleep, and that you're making good decisions about training, and you have a good balance in your life. So I think everything is pointing in a positive direction for you right now, which is cool.
Yeah, I believe so. And I'm excited for the games.
That's good to hear.
Well, the people that we had here today also seemed to be very excited, and there was a few people who had messaged us that they were really looking forward to this. So I appreciate you taking the time despite being busy, and it's nice that you're able to share with us some of the background of how you got here, and really a cool perspective that you have on the sport at a really young age still.
Yeah. I appreciate being here, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I think you're proving to be a great role model for the community you have there. Obviously, some people back home that are supporting you, and I'm hopeful that more people will get to kind of fall in love with the person and the athlete that you are.
Thank you.
All right, Julia, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you for taking the time, and good luck
Thank
with the rest of preparation.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Was.
Julia. Yeah, I really first met her at the games in 2022. It was not the best start to I kind of screwed some stuff up that year, but we were able to make amends. She was incredibly forgiving. And this year, when we did get to hang out more so in Saudi Arabia than in Dubai, it was nice to get to know her a little bit and see her compete really well. So I was very happy that she made it back to the games when everything settled down there in South America. And, I didn't really know how banged up she was 2 years ago at the games. Sometimes it's hard to know. And quite frankly, the athletes in South America, when they come up to most people expect them to finish in the bottom 5 or 10 at the games, because that's generally, with the exception of Guy, what they've done. But I've seen, both her and Victoria compete enough now to know that when they are healthy and when they're able to kind of perform at their best, that they can put up some strong fights against some of these women. And I'm hopeful that they'll have some success this year at the games, that maybe they're not just them, but no women from South America have really been able to have yet.
Yeah, I really like just like you. I didn't know that she was dealing with some injuries prior to that games, and then seeing her perform at semifinals, healthy and free, and just having fun. I mean, that means a lot. And if she can go into the games not thinking about injuries or having any pressure, which she shouldn't have, because she's already been to the games now. Um, I think she might have some good performances, especially if there's a swim event. If there's a swim event, if it's pure swimming, I mean, you're talking someone that competed at the national, international level. I mean, and you don't have someone like Amanda Barnhart competing, swimming, or a Lucy Campbell, or some of the women that are known to be swimmers. So that could be something where, if it's just pure swimming, or even couple it with some type of other form of movement, let's say like air squats or some type of body movement or general movement, I think that Julia will do really well. And if that's one of the first events of the games, which we typically is, then you start off your games in a very positive note, and who knows where that momentum and that positive finish, where that takes you the rest of the week.
Yeah, Julian, if any thoughts on still having cuts at the games? I mean, it's relevant in terms of that conversation that Patrick was just saying, because if a one or two events come up early in the weekend, whether it's Julia or any other athletes that and they have these top performances, even if it's a top 10 performance or two, those make a big impact on the leaderboard. And if they end up being able to ride that wave a little bit past whatever the cuts end up being, then a lot of things can change, and not just for the competition, but even going forward from there. My general thoughts about having cuts at the games are unchanged. I mean, I hear what Dave says about it. I know what Adrian has said about it. I know what those guys' perspective has been. And I don't disagree with their perspective. he's basically saying this is the nature of the sport. Is we have these cuts at various stages of the season, and even at the CrossFit Games, you got to perform in order to stay on the field of play. So I wouldn't say I'm necessarily disagreeing with them or disrespecting or discounting their point of view. I just enjoyed the years where there weren't any cuts and where we got to see the full field compete all the way through. There is clearly an element of this sport that's about the ability to rest, recover, repeat. And whether that's event to event or day by day, I like seeing that at the games that who can actually show up on Sunday when everyone's hurting and still do well. And, especially now that there are some, the payouts go all the way down through 40. That means there's always something additional to fight for, not just in terms of pride and number on the leaderboard, but even a financial payout. And if you're going to have the cuts, then I would say I would like to see kind of a version of the design of the games where when the cuts do happen, that I can look and say, well, it was a fair test. Like everyone, if they couldn't be in the top half of the field at that point, then there's no really excuse there. But sometimes you look at the programming and you see a very different slate of workouts on Saturday, Sunday compared to Thursday, Friday, and that makes me question a little bit. When you design the test, you're looking at the full test, but then when you cut the field down, you've only gotten through the midterm.
Yeah. I see it both ways. I mean, I know, especially like you also look at it from a perspective like you care about the athletes and you want to see the athletes complete that test. They've earned that. But I also see it from their perspective as well. And I thought what he did last year, cutting two separate cuts at 10, I thought that was fine. Especially with the second cut. The second cut, because by then you did have an overall. You could have ended the games on Saturday, and you still would have had to fit, somewhat of the fittest people out there, especially at the bottom end. It gave those athletes an opportunity to get the heavy lift and some of those other skills that, and I agree. I think like Sunday should be an overall test of like, okay, these are the athletes we have left. Let's see how fit they are now after 3 days of competition. But those other previous 3 days, I think it needs to at least have a complete test to give you, your final 20. But
yeah, and Jeff says then just take fewer athletes to the games. I don't know that that's the answer either. The thing that I will say that I like is, and I'm not exactly sure if this would have happened if it weren't for these conversations with Dave, but I like that it's known more ahead of time. The thing that I think a lot of athletes really struggled with in certain years is showing up there and then finding out that, they may only compete for a day or two. And then, because it is a big commitment for a lot of the athletes to get here. I mean,
yes.
It's even a guy like Ricky, like he put a post up on his Instagram, like the journey begins. It's July 1st. It's just still a month and a week before the CrossFit Games. And he's starting a day plus long trip to get to the States.
He should be arriving today.
And then he's got, a month of preparation or 5 weeks of preparation here, and if it's like, you have to make that decision. And I guess the level of expectation is different for some of the athletes than others, but either way, a lot of them are traveling a long way to be there, and they've already gone through a long season to earn that spot there. I'm just curious, what's the harm? Like why is it so hard to have the full field compete for the full 4 days or whatever it is?
Yeah. I mean, and that's one thing we didn't get a chance to ask Julia. Maybe we'll be able to ask another athlete this question. But she mentioned like, because she's not in South America anymore, she's losing potential sponsorships. And being in the Middle East, there's just not that many sponsors there. And she's working, and we both know it's not cheap to go for the fly from Abu Dhabi or Dubai. It's not cheap. We're talking just the flight alone. You're talking about $2,000 just for the flight. And that's just for one person. Like I said, if her husband comes over, you're doubling that, and any other friends or family that want to come, whether they're coming from Dubai or coming from South America, those aren't cheap flights. And I think if you finish, I think last or 40th, I think the price, I think you get $2,000. So if you show up, yeah, it's something around there. And so it comes down to sponsorships and having a good managing team. And she's been with Snorri and Bachland for a while now, and they've seemed like they've done a great job with helping her out with that, even though the opportunities might not be as I don't know, plentiful as possible as it used to. It's hard to be, labeled a Brazilian athlete, but you don't really compete in Brazil, so you lose that connection.
Sure.
So it hurts her, but at the same time, she's fine with it because she has her husband has a great job. She seems like she has a great job. She's doing what she wants to do, but it's great to hear her say that she wants to do this for a long time. But I just hope we get to the point where it's not, she can do more of it and enjoy more of it.
Melanie, this may have been asked before, but in case I missed it, have you ever tried to get Castor on? I know he doesn't do a ton of interviews, but just curious. PC?
So obviously, I interviewed him at semifinals at Syndicate, and it is on my list. And I've had discussions with him and some other people, and yeah, and he said he'd be open for it. It's just with him, he's a busy guy right now. So I foresee if we do have him on, I doubt we have him on before the games, but I could definitely see him coming on after the games. But it's been cool. He's been a lot more open to communications. I've actually exchanged a lot of emails with him lately. So we'll see. With someone like Dave, I think you got to build a relationship, a rapport with before just like flat out, cold calling. It was like, hey, we have a podcast, because he doesn't do many podcasts. And I don't think he wants to come on a podcast to repeat stuff that he does in his weekend review or or anything else. I think you have to basically be like, Dave, we want to bring you on to talk about this, this, and this, and I think that's what we're doing right now. But I actually think having him on afterwards to kind of give obviously he'll give like his own week review, his own assessment, but obviously it'd be cool to kind of like ask him some other questions and kind of dive in that brain of his.
CJ, who is up next? Who is next up? Well, we do have some dates we're trying to fill in on the calendar. This week's going to be tough. I'll basically be traveling after this for the next 24 hours or 36 hours or so. On Wednesday, we may do a show. On Thursday, we may have Roger on, which is the competition organizer in Norway, which I'm going to be working at this weekend. And then there is we have a competition this weekend that we're covering. But next week, I'll still be in Norway, but we're hoping to line up some guests for next week. We don't have any confirmed on the schedule yet, but we're working on it this week. So I'm going to continue to try to get some athletes on here. Hopefully some that don't know too much about or haven't heard from that much recently. But some of them are starting to travel, and some of them it may just be easier actually to wait until they're in the States to do some of those. So working on it and have some ideas, but nothing confirmed yet. We want to, we are hoping eventually to talk to Emma Tall, Linda Kieschman. There's some athletes, Jacqueline Dahlstrom, that we've been reaching out to, some of the European women. You need to get Chad or Bella to fill in for you while you're not available. All right, PC, there you go.
Yeah, well, they can fill in for me when I'm not available.
Yeah, the other thing is that Patrick's going to be leaving next week for Army.
Start of my deployment, my journey. So, but we're still going to try to make it happen. I mean, it's crazy because I'll have probably more time to do these when I'm in Germany than I will when I'm in Texas for the next 2 or 3 weeks, because I'll be training and a lot of stuff. So, I mean, we might switch up and do some of these at nights, which I think would make sense, especially since a lot of the athletes will be here in the U.S. by then, and we could do more stuff at night. Might not, Brian might not like it, but
I might not. I mean, I'll probably be asleep, so you may have to get Bella or Chad for those.
Oh, it'd still be Central Time.
I'll be in Europe the next.
Oh yeah, that's
2
right.
weeks.
Yeah, that's right. But
all the way until July 22nd, I'll be in Europe.
Yeah, Jeffrey, I'll be at Fort Cavazos, formerly known as Fort Hood. So
fair enough, T-Bird. Fort Hood, that's north of that's like an hour. That's like near Killeen, Texas. I think it's about an hour north of Austin.
That's the airport we're flying into, and so I'm like an hour and a half away from Austin. I was talking to Sahara last night, and she's obviously a little bit like heartbroken that I won't be there for the games. But I told her the Norwegians are coming in right towards the end of the month, so I'm thinking about hopefully I might have a day off where I can go up and visit the Norwegians and just check up on her and stuff like that and everything. So, but yeah, but yeah, you're gonna see you're probably gonna see Sahar more than I will before the game. So
Yeah,
and
gonna be probably, I don't know about this week, but next week I'll be heading over to Oslo a bit to train with those guys.
yeah, and I think that's probably maybe even a good opportunity next week. To one maybe bring someone like Sahara on, and maybe some of those athletes from some of the Oslo teams. I know we've been bringing on the individual athletes, but it'd be cool to bring on some of the team athletes, especially some of those Oslo athletes. So
Yeah, we'll see. We'll figure something out.
yeah, but yeah, don't worry. We're not going radio silent here. Actually, it's a complete different. Again, Brian's got a busy week. He's got a travel starting here soon, a busy travel day, and then he's got um yeah, it's like planes, trains, and automobiles for you today, and then he's then he's got yeah, he's streaming it up right back on streaming a competition this weekend. So which is great. Us streaming competitions. That's it's been great. Everyone that watched the reps ahead, you know, please, let us know what you think about the reps ahead. Obviously, we want to do more of those in the future, but and this is the second one we did, and we're trying to constantly improve it. I know there's some people during the comments were saying, for instance, like putting a live mic on me, during the announcements or something like that, or just simple stuff like that. And that's all stuff we're trying to figure out. But overall, I think the feedback has been great, and I don't know, I had so much fun. You know, I know you and Bella did too.
Yeah, if you didn't get a chance to watch it this weekend, we know there was a lot going on with the Euro Cup and the UFC and Olympics trials and everything. But pretty good matches, pretty fun, very different than the last one. So worth going and checking out.
Yeah. Hey, also, if you put up, yeah, hey, Jake wore that, and he wore it, and and the thing is, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be someone like Jake. Jake's such, and his opponent, Malachi. They have so much respect for each other, and just like it was a great group. The people we had there could be like they were like different in terms of some ways, but they're so just like they got along and meshed really well. It was cool, like seeing like Sydney interact with like Kyra, and like Jake interacting with like James. I mean, it was just a really cool. But I mean, the last night we came back, and Brian and most of all the athletes they had to wake up at like 2:45 in the morning to be at the airport. So we get back after dinner, and James, Nick, and Jake were just sitting around playing cards. Right, were they playing spades or hearts?
Neither. It was a different game.
Yeah, but they were playing cards. It was just so funny because just seeing those, and they said something like that. Like Nick says, like, man, this was fun. Just hanging out, getting to know these guys, and just playing cards. It was like it was guys doing bro stuff, and it was fun. Just like we're sitting there talking to them, and just the interaction with those guys. It was really cool because you had different guys and different aspects of their life. Jake's a coach slash ex athlete. Nick's a box owner who's older, and then you have James who's about to get married. Games. It's just like so cool, but they were just having a good time, and I think that was something I enjoyed a lot out of it. And but if you have any suggestions of some matchups you want to see, obviously help us out. I mean, we have some ideas with some future matches, but there's some things out there you want to see. Let us know, whether it be like semifinal caliber athletes or or games athletes. Put it out there.
Yeah, I think that the other thing you were mentioning that really resonates with me is these competitions, because it's one event, but their athletes are there for 48 hours or so. There's an opportunity to interact with them in an environment that you don't often get at competitions, and it's nice for them to kind of get to know each other a little bit differently. I mean, James Sprague basically told me, he's like, I didn't know Nick Matthew at all, and now I feel like he's a
They're
friend. He's a good friend, right?
Yes.
And they were having fun with the before the match and whatever. And then for us as well, to spend that time with them, train with them a little bit. Like the barriers are down, and so you get to learn about the athletes, which is obviously valuable for us, but also hopefully for them in the long run, where now that we know a little bit more about them, have had those conversations, that we can hopefully represent them better going forward in the future.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, Brian, that's it. I'm probably gonna take a nap today at some
Dude,
point.
I don't blame you.
Which is probably
I
the
wish we
worst
had
thing to
time.
do. There's so much I need to get done. I got like 10 days to get stuff taken care of, but I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna maybe take a nap. Maybe get a workout in. We'll see. I haven't looked to see what we have there, but I probably should after. Well, no, I did a lot yesterday. I did a lot of walk around downtown Denver, but I ate a lot of food. Had some great local brews, but it was overall a good time. I'm glad I got that time to kind of just spend and hang out with some friends. But for 100 days. Uh, no, I think I'm only going to be there, Jeffrey, for maybe a couple weeks before I go back and go in country to Germany. So unfortunately, it'll probably be literally right before the game. So, which sucks, but it's all right. That's one thing I love about Be Friendly is like there's a lot of competitions coming out in the future. A lot of them in a lot of them in Europe that we'll be covering. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be seeing Brian in Belgrade games there in Serbia. So, and then obviously we got Rogue there in Scotland and the Oslo Throwdown. I mean, just a bunch of competitions going on, so it's going to be really fun. Oh, you meant 110 degrees? Yeah. Luckily, Jeffrey, we're public affairs. We don't spend too much time in the field. It's usually an air conditioned office, so that's what we do. But well, Brian, you got anything else before we log off here?
Nope. Just gonna finish up closing down the apartment for a month while I'm on the road, and then head over to the airport.
I don't know how you do it, man. I got so many plans, and of course I have dogs, but that's crazy. But yeah. Well, before we go, again, hey, follow Homegrown Relief on Instagram for a chance to win a $50 store credit. If you scan that QR code right there in the bottom corner, right there by HGR CBD, they'll take you straight to that basically the chance to win that $50 store credit. So make sure you scan that. That supports us. It supports HGR, which we're excited about HGR. Continuing on the partnership with us. We enjoyed having them the last 6 months, and they enjoyed it too. So we want to continue that partnership. So we got a lot of cool, interesting stuff coming up with HGR. In terms of some giveaways, some other things going on. But here's something to start off. Just give them a simple follow on Instagram. Doesn't cost you anything, and you have a chance to get $50 store credit, which you can use to buy all types of cool stuff. Which I know Brian is a big fan of their stuff, and also yeah, if you wanted to just buy some stuff, if you use Friend20 at checkout, you get 20% off. Whether it be the relief stick, or for me, I like a lot of the pet anxiety stuff I use for my animals. So, but yeah, so scan that QR code, support Homegrown Relief, and thank you for supporting us, especially this past weekend. And I know a lot of everyone that was in the chat was in the chat or will be watching the reps ahead. So thanks for that. Thank you everyone for always supporting us and following us, and be friendly, our friend.